Welcome to a new video in my home automation series, and today is going to be another Dashboard 2.0 content and Node-RED content. And this is more like sort of like an update or things that are happening. It's not something that I have built, although I started building something which I'm going to show you. But in one of the recent or the most recent release of Dashboard 2.0 or update, there is some new stuff that you can see here on the left. So that's been added to the blog fairly recently. I don't know if it has a date. Oh, yeah. So 14th, and today is the 20th. So yes, very recent. And it is about building a multi-tenant dashboard. And so first of all is how you can build multi-tenant dashboard, and secondly, how you can build user access. And I think there has been a couple of discussion on this, and I also run into a scenario where I was asked how I can, create user access in dashboard in Node-RED. So I restrict users from visiting a couple of pages on a dashboard, or offer user specific content to certain pages. And I think with these, we can definitely do that. And these stuff are not entirely new, but there has been more stuff added to this. So what this is really, this describes how you can use the dashboard if you want to have, multi-user or multi-tenant dashboard or multi-user dashboard. Let me just change the view so we can see the whole thing. Yeah, so first of all, is something that I think we already talked about when I did the dialogue video on Dashboard 2.0, is whenever you have a message which originates from a UI element, like you click the button, you edited an edit box, or you did a navigation or something like that. So all those messages contains an underscore client ID. And in that, there is a thing which is the socket ID. So that's an attribute. And that contains an ID which is generated for every single socket. So you can use that information to track a particular user, or it's more like a particular window, because let's say if you refresh the window or you create a duplicate of that window, then the socket ID change. But nevertheless, I think it's a good enough option to track a user and make sure that, identify the user who is running. So you can use this socket ID to create a multi-tenant dashboard, because you can in the dialog window, we also said that we only want to show the dialog to the user who actually initiated the dialog, like clicked on a button. So we had this option so that on the template node, we check whether the socket ID of the user is same as the socket ID of the message. So let me just show you that. So when we are processing the incoming message, then we said if the message client exists, and if the message underscore client socket ID is equals to the socket ID. So the socket ID which is coming to the message is same as the socket ID that the dashboard client sees, then we do something. Otherwise we ignore, because then other users should not be able to process these messages. So that's the whole concept which has been enhanced here. And the change here, what you can see in this message or this screenshot, is that when you navigate to the Dashboard 2.0, so previously we had a layout, previously we had options for layout and theming, and now we also have the client data. So first of all, there is a checkbox which says include the client data. So that's checked by default. And actually, I think I was told that it even existed in Dashboard 1.0. We just probably never used it. But the other thing is that you can now define for every single UI element whether that takes the the socket ID into account when representing the data. So that means that you can, for example, here I specified the UI text should only display information if the incoming message, if the socket ID of the incoming message matches the socket ID of the client. So again, that means that you can't just send a message and it's just going to appear in every single browser window, which is how it how it works by default. And you can specify it for every single UI element. And of course, this has, I mean, by default, the UI notification and UI control is checked. But I mean, obviously it has ramifications, because if you have messages, sorry, if you have a dashboard or dashboards which are designed that a single message goes to every single user, well, if you start checking these checkboxes, it's not going to work that way. And also that means that if you are trying to send a message which doesn't have the socket ID, then these components will think about them as sort of like global messages. So everyone should receive that message and display it. And for that, I mean, that's actually a very good, functionality, because you can really control who can see the message, and you can see sort of like, or you can send like, broadcast messages which appear for every single user. And actually there is a very good demonstration for this here, where they show like how you can, oops, go back. So here you can see that when you move that slider, then the information is shown in the chart, but that is, that's a client basically message. So that only shows up for this single client. And where is the rest of the video? So anyway, then you will see that you have two more sliders, and then if you slide these, then those messages will start appearing on all three of these browser windows, even though they are different clients. I don't know who is hosting this video, but it was working before. Yeah, so you can see that the message appears, and then if you do same user or all users, then it starts appearing. But again, if you do this, that's only data for this single user or client, and this is for this client. So this is how you can control it. And actually the way you control it is very simple. You have the example flow here. It's really whether you have this underscore client maintained in the message or not. So if you have the underscore client and the component should listen to that, meaning that it is turned on here, then only that client is going to show the data. All the other clients will not. And you can also do it with on the user level. That's another can of worms which I don't really understand yet, because also in this document talks about plugin for data providers. So these are the data providers that should be, provide authentication, so user authentication. And there are some examples here how you can do that, or not here, but in this link. But that's a little bit over my head, so I don't quite understand that. I have to spend more time on it. But the other thing I wanted to show you is I have also made my own example. So I have created a piece of code, which you can see here. And my very simple example was that on my dashboard, I want to have certain pages which can only be accessed after the login. So, user ID and password. So I can protect those pages to certain users only. And let's say I want to have some mechanism behind that, so users are stored and I can have access, and maybe I can even specify which user is allowed to see which pages. So maybe you can see one pages but not the other, or other users can see all the pages, something like that. And also control that once you open a page, you get some user specific data. So that goes back to the multi-tenancy that I mentioned up until now. So the way it works, oh, by the way, and this is the whole user-specific content where this whole discussion started, and I was told that actually this is something which is getting released very recently, or was released very recently. So let me show you my example. Oh, it's already here. It's on another screen. So here what I've created is, let's say I have a simple page and everyone can access it. And then I have a user access page. Okay, well, I already logged in here. So what you can see that I have I created this thing here. So it shows what the logged on user is. And then it shows me the user ID, username, another ID. And if I click on this number, I can get some random numbers, and there are some other random numbers. But what if I create a duplicate site? So now I get a logon prompt, because as I said, this socket ID is not reliant on cookies or anything like that. So when you open a new browser session or you refresh, then your socket ID changes. So then it asks me for a user ID and a password as well. So I have user A and password B. So if I log in, then now you can see that this is called the test user, and both of them are test users. Okay, so let me refresh. So I get a new login, CD. Okay, so this is called second user. So that's oh, I haven't I haven't done the thingy here, which only listens to the messages with the matching client ID. But anyway, what you can see here is that on the main screen where I'm displaying a couple of UI text element, and again, as I said, the UI text is, for me, it is configured to look for the socket ID. So now this shows, for this user, this shows test user, and for this one, it shows the second user. So actually I can differentiate what and it is the same, as you can see, it is the same URL. So it is the same page and the same group and the same text element, but then it is showing different information based on whether it is user 1 or user 2. So now if I generate a random number, this user gets its random number, but this user doesn't. So I can, do a random number here. But then I created this other text field, which is everyone. So the message going into this text field does not contain an underscore client. So the dashboard saying, well, this is a message for everyone. So I'm just going to update it or show it in both of the screens. So that pretty much just sums it up. And I think in most cases, this is really what we need. So we need to be able to control that. We need to be able to control information to a specific, I would say user, but in our case, it's more like, window or session. But then we also need the option, like these everyone things, where we show information to everyone, like, some sort of stats that everyone should see, update. But then we should be able to control that if a user does something, then the data that is generated is only shown to that user. And again, going back to the Node-RED flow, this is the whole flow which is displaying all this information that you can see here. And you see it is one single flow. So the name, the username, the user ID, and the random numbers. So what you see here, so these 4 fields, it only exists once. And of course, I'm just controlling that, with the underscore client, I'm controlling what is the socket ID, and then the dashboard 2.0 can match the socket ID with the message. And if I go to debug, I have quite a few of these debug windows everywhere. And if I show you, so all these debug windows are set up to show the complete message. So if I expand, you see that it has a topic, it has a payload, but it has this underscore client, which has this socket ID. So basically, in a nutshell, what is happening here is that I have this UI control element, which is listening to all the events in the dashboard. And specifically here in this function node, I'm looking for a payload which says change. So that's listening to all the events every time you change the page on the screen. So basically you are just navigating across different pages. It checks what page you are navigating to, so it's called the user access, and then it does all my custom logic to check if if this page requires user access, then if you have a session already with your socket ID, so if you are already logged in, then obviously it's not going to ask for your login information already. So it does all these things, and then but if it doesn't find the login information, then what really happens, it just brings up this login dialog. And this login dialog is basically a full screen dialog screen. And again, if you have seen my dialog example or my file lister example, the file browser flow, then I've used this before. So this is like a v dash dialog, and you can just make them full screen. So it just appears on top of your page and basically blocking the whole page until you enter your user ID and password, which is not ideal because by the time it appears, the dashboard renders the rest of the screen. So you sort of can see what's behind for a split second, but that's the best what I could come up with. And this basically creates generates the logon screen. So you can see that it generates the logon screen here with the user ID and the password and the button and everything. And when the button is pressed, then it sends the user and their password in a message, and then it goes into my custom validate credentials, which again, it checks against the user ID database. What's the username and the password? Is it a valid user ID? Then does the user have access to the page that you are trying to display? So it does all these things here. And at the end, it either sends a message back that your credentials are invalid, or then everything is fine. Then it just closes the logon screen and your rest of the screen appears. So you can see the actual content. Well, the content that you can see, right here. And then that's it. And of course, then, as usual, everything is stored in a context. So I have a user access variable in the context, which has user IDs. So for each user, I have a name, user name, password. I have another ID, sort of like internal ID if you want to use that. And I can specify that this user has access to the page, which is called the user access. And then I have some settings where at the moment it only contains timeout, and I also have sessions. So that just stores all the socket IDs that has been logged in and what user they are logged in and what was the logon time. So I can just handle I can just expire these logons if this logon time is more than 3,600 seconds from the current time. By the way, I should really update this because this logon time is only updated on logon, but obviously if you keep navigating, maybe you shouldn't be kicked out after 1 hour, 1 hour after your logon. So yeah, and so this is all in my custom flow, and as I said, probably there is going to be a better way of doing the authentication once I understand how these data providers work, and maybe I can create my own. But I think for the time being, this is a simple enough flow to work with. And I still need to do some bug fixes, but once I do that, then I will release this code. And I think it should be a very simple and lightweight access control for the dashboard, and it seems to be working fine for now. And as you can see, I can navigate to another page which doesn't require access, and it works. And if I navigate back to the user access, then because I'm logged in already, it's not going to ask me anything else. And of course it works the same for the other one as well. So if I can go back, user access, and then it works. Just ignore the fact that both of them show second user at the top. But yeah, the global messages are updated in both cases. The button only impacts the screen where on the same user. It doesn't expect the other screen, so I can just press these buttons and then keep generating random numbers. I'm really looking forward to build some half-as solution for access control. I mean half-as as what I have shown you, because it does have certain limitations. But I think for some, not productive things and things that you would use internally, I think it should be a safe enough and simple enough option to use. So if you are interested in the development of these, then just sit tight. The update video will be coming at some point. I would rather not promise anything, but I think that should be all for today. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you in the next video.